Hey, welcome to the All49ers show, coming to you 3 hours after the Niners finished day 5 of training camp. Grant Cohn, Jose Sanchez, we were both there today. So we're going to tell you our impressions. Probably saw the numbers. Maybe you saw our practice reports. Trey Lance, 5 of 10, touchdown, interception, rushing touchdown, a lot of pressure. I had 15 dropbacks, 12 times under pressure. Maybe that was, that's my pressure subjective. Anyway, afterward, Trent Williams was asked about it, and he was like, oh, this is a great experience for Trey. Best defense in the league, smart, fast, disguises their looks, not give him anything easy. When you pause the film at the top of his drop, no one's open. So anything he's getting, he's really working for and manufacturing on his own. Buy or sell this being a good performance, positive experience for Trey Lance so far?
I'm going to lean with the good performance, but ever so slightly. It feels like it could be a double-edged sword things. Now, the positive is, great, you're going up against easily a top 5 defense in the league, right? Which is good. It's going to force them to be your best, and every athlete's going to tell you, iron sharpens iron. You play the better competition, you rise to that level, and you play at the lesser competition, you kind of stoop down a level at times. So to me, I love that. It's going to be like almost like, someone with ankle weights, like working out with a certain like heavy weight. And then suddenly you take them off and you face a lesser opponent. It's like, this is light. Yo, this is light work. This is easy. So on that point, perfect. Where the negative part is what if like after overtime, like he's still not able to like put enough cracks in the armor. He's not able to really find those weak points. And it's like becomes like very cumbersome, starts eating at his like psyche in terms of like his patience. And it forces him to make some more errant plays than he's already doing now. So that's where believe it'd be the double-edged sword. So the positive, it's like I like seeing him get tested, but eventually it could get old and be like, what else am I going to do here, man? I can't do anything against them. I can't even get what am I going to do?
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm going with this. Like, yeah, it's a great defense, and it's like, look what they did to Dak Prescott. Look what they did to Aaron Rodgers. Countless great quarterbacks really struggled against this defense. So what are we really expecting? But like the Niners are taking it to an extreme. They have their Trent Williams and Mike McGlinchey. They have them like on the field half the time because of, one's older, one's coming off an injury. So half the time it's Justin School or Colton McKivitz or Jalen Moore protecting the edges. And then the interior is a mess anyway. So it's like, what are you really practicing? Today, it would like drop back, no one be open, and then he'd have to start scrambling. And he must have so you had 15 dropbacks and you essentially practiced off-schedule plays 12 times.
Yep.
In a real game, you only want to do off-schedule plays 4 or 5 times. He didn't really get to practice executing the offense on time. And it's because that defense is so good and his offensive line is so bad. And Deebo was really playing with the backups today. So it's still like Kittle and Ayuk against the world. I feel like there's certain things he's getting out of it, but he could probably get more out of it if people could block.
Yeah, I think that's something probably you're going to take away the most from what we saw, right? It's like, hey, today was the off schedule. What's Trey Lance going to do off the top of his dome type of day? Because there's no way in hell this guy was able to even just sit and just stay with whatever the play call was going more than just a couple of seconds. To me, like you've said before, hey, if Deebo Samuel comes back, it's going to help. But I'm like, sure it'll help, but what's that really going to do if like the pressure's in his face within seconds? So to me, it's like the defense is going against it is great. They'll hopefully raise his talent levels. But I'm just struggling to see where he's going to really find a height of stride. Hopefully he'll be headstrong and can dish it out. And that's something where you're going to find out Kyle Shanahan, how he handles it. But over and over again, how are you going to find a way to really get him into a space where he's really going to develop and hit his stride?
Yeah. It just feels like, again, what Trent Williams said is you pause the film at the top of his drop. Fred Warner taking away the underneath stuff. Cornerbacks are all over the receivers. No one's open right away. What he didn't mention is that, the right tackle's beat, the center's beat, like there's 3 guys in his face. So yeah, that's very difficult. It's like Josh Allen at Wyoming is what it looks like right now. Just utter chaos all the time. And it's good, I guess, to practice the most difficult conditions, but at a certain point, I think you want him to like be able to get a feel for executing the offense on time. And I don't know how he can do that behind this offensive line. And maybe he'll never get a chance to do that all season. Maybe he really needs this time to get a feel for what it's going to be like running for his life all season, unless they plan on bringing in a new center. Because hold on, real quick, there was one play. I was talking to someone on the sideline, and I made the argument. I was like, when they take off Trent Williams and Mike McGlinchey, you could argue that Aaron Banks is the best player on the line, and we don't even know if he's good. Next play, Aaron Banks whiffs immediately, and Trey Lance throws a 40-yard completion to Brandon Ayuk in spite of that. So maybe him missing the block was the key to the play. I don't know.
I think today's practice is probably a good summation of how Lance is getting helped and how he's not. He's not going to get the easy plays at all executed. That's a lot of tough work. I've noticed today, and I'm just seeing reports and tweets and whatnot. The few plays he made, those were high level elite plays. Like the one where Ayuk had another play where he straight up poo-pooed on Charvarius Ward. That was amazing. Both plays, actually. The first one was to Ward. The second one was over Emmanuel Mosley.
Yeah.
So those are two, my goodness, I don't recall ever seeing this in training camp before. So I think it's in a way, it's that defense forces him to be at that precise outlier elite level, but everything else, which is which is pretty much the common stuff that you get that he would be easy to make, it's completely not there. And that's exactly what that defense always does. It makes you not have the easy stuff or even the above average stuff. You have to be at your best, aka an elite outlier player, for us to really get a kink in our armor. So to me, I think that's the one thing. It's okay, it's going to force him to make elite plays on the regular, but again, it's about how he's going to be able to really take away from that in terms of, I have nothing here, so am I going to start forcing this in now or what?
Is it going to create bad habits? Is every play going to become an off-schedule play? What I do want to say real quick is I was complaining all offseason about Brandon Ayuk. I was like, come on, man. You're better than this. You need to take over these practices. Deebo's out. Kittle's 28. It's on you. Dominate. And he didn't. But the last 2 days he did. You were there today. What do you think? What do you see from Ayuk?
He was nasty. He was phenomenal. Now I'm seeing why, personally, I didn't think that the connection between him and Lance wasn't going to be, the 10 touchdown, 1,500 receiving yards that some people want to hype him up to be. But goddamn, today made it look like it. Today made it look like it. This guy was
starting in the one-on-ones, right?
Huh?
Starting in the one-on-ones.
Yeah, starting in the one-on-ones, just completely, my goodness. Didn't he beat Jimmy Ward on the one-on-ones, and Jimmy Ward had phenomenal coverage. All the coverage that he had on him, he beat pretty well. And that
it was a fade route against Jimmy Ward, and Jimmy was right there. So the thing with Ayuk is he has those long arms. He really is a good contested catch guy. Mm-hmm. But then he destroyed Mosley on a slant. I mean, he was getting big time separation from Mosley in the one-on-ones.
Yeah, that's one thing I really love. It's he doesn't look as fast as he did before when I first ever saw him as a rookie.
Agreed.
But that's good. It's fine because that means he focuses in on, I just kept thinking this guy just knows his space, how to work the space, and it's great. So I kind of think of how soccer players kind of do that. You got to work the space in between little small angles, the way the shape of the whole playing field is going. So to me, it's what's the space you got between the safety, your defender, how close he's playing to him, and he's playing it lots and greatness with a lot of great fluidity in terms of how he's getting his defender just to keep kind of getting them in, not so much of a trail technique, but he's just really kind of just shaking him a lot. And I love the way he's using his hips and his feet work. It just looked amazing. And some of the times the corner was draped on him, and then Lance just put that in a spot where no one can get it but Ayuk. And it was just amazing to see him just ball out. And that got me kind of revved up. I was like, okay, Ayuk breakout season.
Yeah. Jawan Jennings struggling. George Kittle, not struggling, but going against Jimmy Ward and Fred Warner, sort of being held in check a little bit. The guy who's really stepping up is Ayuk. And Lance. Lance is doing a lot of this stuff off schedule. So, all right, let's take some questions. Nope or dope review says it feels like this team has improved in every facet except O-line. Went backwards there. Good enough to make a Super Bowl run? As is, I don't know. If they add a couple offensive linemen, maybe. I guess Trey still has a lot to prove. We still haven't seen him with Deebo. Playing the blame game by week 2 of camp seems about right. No, I'm just saying what's who's playing well and who's playing not so well right now. And I think the story of the day was the offensive line. It seems like everyone that was watching today was like, man, that's not conducive to success. What's happening right there?
It kind of reminded me of last year when we were watching him playing with the backup offensive lineman against the backup. Not even, there was times he was playing against starters on that defense, even with the backup offensive line, just overall offensive players, where Lance was just running for his life. It's how can we even get a real assessment of him when this guy's constantly having to run around? Like it's not. In reality, that's probably not where you want him to be at on offense. You want him to actually be on schedule and drop back and actually, work the sequence of the offense the way Shanahan wants it to be, not have the pressure in his face 24/7.
Also, these are still some really like short practices. 10 throws in a day.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll build up to 20, 25. So it's kind of hard to get in a rhythm when the whole practice it's like 2 sessions. 1 session and then special teams. They did do red zone today. So that explains some of the tight window. I don't know if I explained that at all, but John says, after hearing you talk about Danny Gray, you should pursue comedy as a side job. LOL, too funny. Did Deebo talk or look at you today at all signs at all or still a grudge? I haven't talked to Deebo. He didn't talk to the media. Imagine signing an extension and not talking to the media that day. That's a new one to me. Why would you not want to talk to the media?
The luxury of a star player.
Hey, well, that's fine. Let me get rid of this bot. You're blocked. All right, cool. Let's move on. So the quarterback is the headliner, but the interior of the offensive line is the biggest issue on this team right now. First day there, what you see? How dire is this?
All right, I'm not ready to hit the panic button yet because it's only 1 day, but from the way everything is sounding like from last week, without pads, it's a problem. It's a problem. I can't cut it short. It's definitely a problem, especially considering you have a month and a half tops left before the season opener comes, and you essentially only have 1 month of training camp to get done, a few preseason games and a joint practice sessions where, time's of the essence. There's time, but then there's not. It's like you have some time. You have to figure it out what the right formula is. You can't be wasting, these precious reps on players who you don't think is going to get that actual solidification over time through the season. Because so far, what I saw today was someone asked me, what do you thought of Lance? I think my cousin, how did Lance look today? I don't know. I couldn't tell what he was in the offense. He was just, I know how he fares when he's off script, which was cool. He took off on the play when the receiver wasn't open, which was smart, scrambled out there, but he got sacked multiple times. It's just when they let the players hey, just let the play run out. But he definitely got sacked at least like 3 to 4 times, which was atrocious. And by any standards of the 49ers should accept. Eventually they got to figure out a way to get those guys in the group because so far Michael Glinchey coming off the torn quad looks fine out there to me. And I feel like I'm a critic of his. He looks fine. It's really those 2 guard positions, center, where these guys are getting beat, whether it's pass rush, first step. Where it's speed rush, power rush, or that quick first steps. It's just really like weird. I understand like you get some bad reps, but 99% of them were kind of pretty bad.
I'm not sure they have any starters in the interior. Like they got Brunskill. Here's the thing. So like they got
center because he's playing center. He's
right guard. Center, to me, like they can't play Brunskill at center. They want to play Brunskill at center, but his snaps are an adventure. Like they're turnover waiting to happen. You can't have that. He's a decent starting guard. I don't think he's an acceptable center. So to me, their centers on this team are Jake Brendel and Donovan West. Like and Jake Brendel is not a starting center. He's 30. He would have shown that by now. He's a backup center. So really they're in a spot where they need undrafted free agent rookie Donovan West to take this job, or they need to get someone else on this team. And I don't understand what they're taking, like what they're waiting so long for. They signed a nose tackle today. How about a center?
And I think if it was just 1 guard, or even two guards that were like, okay, there's a question mark. But the fact that it's literally like a string of just 3 in a row, especially center. And we've seen when they don't have just sufficient center performance, just like a guy who actually has a semblance of knowing what they're doing and playing decent, that whole thing collapses badly. And I saw it today, the way every Trey Lance drop back 2 seconds in, the guy's just having pressure. And it's like, how can the guy even see who he's trying to look at when he's having helmets just bang into his shoulders and whatnot, literally within a yard of him? Yeah. It's not really giving him a chance. And that's where it's like, it's great. You're giving him like these reps of looking at how he would face a very powerful defense in terms of pressure in his face. Style coverage is great, but what are we going to do to actually like get him to work within the pocket that Shanahan loves to preach about? There is no pocket because it's collapsed within seconds. And center and left guard and right guard, just having all 3. I'm getting like flashbacks to when 2019, when they went on that Super Bowl run, where that was their real Achilles heel that eventually, just died on them. And so you don't want that to be a replication of this year. I don't know who you're going to sign, JC Treader. I get what they did about putting Brunskill at center because I don't think they trust a rookie. You'd rather have someone tenured there, like I told you earlier. But I mean, it's just one practice.
I'd rather have a rookie that was like a first or a second round pick than Jake Brendel. Here's the thing: the Niners were very. I didn't like this during the off. They didn't really address needs. They addressed corner and special teams and acted like that. Those were the only needs. And then they didn't make a single trade in the draft. They just hung tight at every slot and took best player available, which is great. And Drake Jackson looks really good. He really does. He's slimmed down a little bit. He looks like he's going to be really good. You didn't have a need at defensive end. You did not have a need at defensive end. You could have traded up and taken a center. Cam Jurgens, the dude that went to Philly. Someone. Because the plan at center this year, there is no plan. The plan was call Alex Mack 50 times and just like fill up his voicemail and beg him to not retire. And it didn't work. And now they're like, damn, I really thought that was going to work. I thought we could sort of pressure Alex Mack into playing, and it didn't work. And Kyle thought, so what are we going to do? I don't know. We'll figure it out. We got time. We got another month. That's where they're at. We got a month.
Yeah, I think I'm going to push back on that draft sense because, first of all, formulating a trade, it takes two to tango. And the 49ers were pretty much at the bottom of the second round. And who the hell was going to trade? What are they going to do? You're going to trade all the way up, and then you're going to have to give up all those other assets from the back end, maybe even future assets. And that's probably at that point, is it worth it? I mean, ultimately, we're still going to give.
It's a trade-off. And it's hard to say you did the wrong thing if you took a best player available and it's a good pass rusher. But there's a consequence. You didn't address center. And you could have addressed – you could still do it now. But it's hard to add to a position of strength when you have Jake Brendel starting on your team. But Drake Jackson may just be a Hall of Famer, so who knows? Jake Brendel too.
I just think if there was a trade to make, I think I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that it would have been made on their end because they did it with Joe Staley and Trent Williams was right there. That was cool. I mean, they also had, Tristan Wirfs.
That's just one suggestion. They had no plan at center. That's just one possible thing they could have done. Drafted one. They're like, nah. Or they could have signed one. They're like, nah. They could have traded for one. They're like, nah, we got Jake Brendel.
And he's not even getting run at starting center. That's the funny part. They hyped up Drake Brendel and said a rookie can do it, and both of those are untrue. I'm surprised Daniel Brunskill is getting run at center this early, and I guess that might have been the plan all along since he's already getting it. But I think 2020, I mean, I know it's 2 years ago, but 2020 showed enough of Brunskill is just not it at center. He's not even sufficient. Maybe moments of sufficiency, but we already saw a right guard. He's fine there. He's a fine right guard. And now instead of putting two areas of question with center and left guard, now you're going to have 3 areas of question with left guard, center, and right guard with Brunskill. And as much as you think, in theory, Brunskill is a more tenured player and experience there, I don't think it's going to work. I mean, maybe Shanahan's hoping these next practices and preseason games will get him up to speed, but if that didn't happen 2 years ago, what's that going to happen now that he's invested so much time at guard?
Jim's Taco says, anyone stand out on D end opposite Bosa? How is Drake Jackson playing? Good. He's really good. At least I'd like to know what you think of him. In minicamp, I thought he looked a little overweight. That was a couple months ago. Now he's trying to like show off. He's got like the pants rolled up. He's got the shirt, the midriff showing. Now he doesn't have a six pack or anything, but he definitely is thinner than he was 2 months ago. And you can tell he's got like really long arms. He can bend. And he's big. I mean, he's not a 255-pound outside linebacker. He's powerful. He's like 265. And it seems like he's going to keep improving his body and be better. Yeah. But I think he's really gifted.
And they got him to pretty much be the new D Ford, right? That's essentially, I think that's why you got the lightweight. You got he looks just core and built. He looks like he's going to be a speeding bullet if he gets it all together. But when he shoots out from the moment of a snap, that's how I feel like he's going to be.
He looks like he'll be a 3-down edge rusher too, not like just a rotational pass rusher.
But I think in this sense, this year he's probably going to be just stuck as that route, unless somehow he just blossoms into this goddamn beast of a guy.
That's true because they still have Ebukam and Amenahu who can play that.
So they don't need him to be all that.
No,
just 2019 D4. Give us some good pass rush downs, and then we'll go from there.
But you were listening to Samson Ebukam talk about Drake Jackson today, and he was like envious. He was like, man, he's like, I could have done that when I was younger. The way he bends, like I can't really do that anymore. But when I was younger, I could do that. And if I didn't have to play freaking 3-4 outside linebacker for the Rams those first 4 years, I would have been like he seemed like a little envious. Like I wish I'd been here the whole time. But
yeah, because Ben is natural, dude. That's not necessarily something you could teach a lot of times. A lot of players that talk about it.
He seems like he has that gymnastic flexibility. Like he can do backflips and stuff.
That's good.
Justin says Niners are worried about O-line, but have depth at running back. If a quarterback goes down, could you package Jimmy and Sermon for a lot? Would anyone want that trade? That's a good question. Yeah, like who wants Jimmy and Sermon? Yikes. Cleveland?
No one.
They already got rid of Treader. I mean, Treader's waiting for you. But I just feel like the Niners don't have much urgency. They made the playoffs last year. They're not on the hot seat. They're like.
Plus, no one really trades for running backs. You could just poke them. You could poach them off a free agent list or someone's practice squad. No one trades for running backs.
Johns says, how come no one, especially Mike and Colin, are talking about Kyler's? It was not even news with any of the national media outlets. Shake my head.
I seen that. That was hilarious. I was like,
I didn't see
that. Arm fatigue. Hey, he doesn't like to study.
I didn't see that. Kyler has arm fatigue?
They held him out of today's or yesterday's practice, and Cliff Kingsbury said, I don't know if he specifically said arm fatigue, but to give him a rest for his arm, which essentially, yeah, arm fatigue. They said it along those lines pretty much. And I was like, watch, this is not going to gain any traction at all. Meanwhile, you got Trey Lance who's going out there slinging it like 15 times a day, or not even 15 times in an hour.
Voice ad agency says, anybody else get that uneasy feeling that while head coach Kyle is on the field with the team, Jimmy Garoppolo is upstairs with Parag and John Lynch negotiating an extension? I don't think so.
That's quite the conspiracy.
I don't think so. We're going to talk about Jimmy next. Callie Tremor says, possible that the Niners waited until the first part of camp to pass to sign Deebo. Why? I don't understand why they had to wait 4 days. Like, why did they miss the first? I mean,
well, didn't DK get signed like barely a week ago?
Yeah,
like last
and
Monday?
he couldn't get more than DK, so maybe they I don't know.
I just think he got more guarantees than all of them, like fully guaranteed.
It just seemed like there were like 4 or 5 wide receiver contracts that needed to happen, and for whatever reason, Deebo was going to be the last one. Maybe it was the trickiest. I don't know, but he was the last one. I think that was the way it was going to go.
Could have been.
I don't know why though.
Remember, I showed you the little rushing yards incentive he has. So that's like a little sprinkle of add-on. And I'm not really sure how complicated that would be to add on to it, but his definitely differs from others.
Steven says, "How is Hyder looking? Look like 2020."
I didn't see him.
He's playing with the backups a lot. He looks like he's 31. He's one of these guys. He's always been one of these guys that wears a long sleeve shirt under. I don't know, man. It just seems like they got a lot of edge rushers who were younger than him, and they're not super invested in him. I mean, who do they got? Bosa, Ebukam, Amenahu, Drake Jackson, Toure.
That enough is alone.
I mean, Jordan Willis. Hyder, I don't know about that. We'll see if Hyder makes a team. I'm not so sure he will. There was one more. We should have drafted Sky Moore. Well, he's probably better than Danny Gray. We're going to talk about him in a minute. But let's talk about the latest with Jimmy Garoppolo. This morning, Deshaun Watson suspended for 6 games. That's the recommendation from the independent judge. The NFL could appeal it and make it longer. My initial reaction was, well, that's the end of Jimmy Garoppolo maybe getting traded to Cleveland. Time to cut him. The more I read, the more I understand that Roger Goodell certainly could extend this as long as he wants. He could make it a full year extension. And what the judge did is essentially say, she only gave it a 6-game suspension, which is light. That's the same suspension you get for like a first-time PED offense. It's very light and offensive. So you could say she didn't take it seriously, but when you go through all of what she wrote, she really said, like, look, all these testimonies, all this investigation really thoroughly done. And all he says is, I didn't do it. Like, that's not compelling. This is compelling. And she lays it out and then says 6 games. It's like, well, maybe what she's doing is giving Roger Goodell and the league all the ammunition they need to appeal and make it as long as they want. So long story short, Jimmy Garoppolo still could get traded to the Browns. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, there's still some steps there. Still some steps there to make. And I think, that's the only way he gets traded to the Browns is if Deshaun is suspended for the whole season, because I don't think it makes sense if he even suspended for like 8 games, or you got to make the case for 10, but like 6 to 8 games that it's even worth it. You could probably run it with Jacoby Brissett and just, be a 500 team barely, because you do have a great running game and great defense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I think there's no way he has a market, even because how long is this going to take even for this now to become appealed, and then that's going to get fought with and stuff like that. I think market for Garoppolo has been long gone. There's nothing that's going to change my mind unless there's a significant injury that occurs all of a sudden, which I hope nothing like that happens. But I don't think this guy has any market. It's over for him. He's just gonna have to. The Niners are gonna have to cut him, or I bet after this week, Jimmy starts looking for asking for his release, because time, like I said, with the way they're trying to figure out the line, is the time is ticking. There's only so much time for these guys to jail, and there's only so much time for Jimmy to get embedded into that new team he's on. It's full game suspension whenever that's gonna happen. I don't see it. The guy needs to get cut. He has no market.
Yeah, but I think what's interesting is like what the Niners, I think, are betting on is that the NFL is going to suspend Deshaun Watson for the full year. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I think it's interesting. So the 6-game suspension comes out today, and I think a lot of people were anticipating this, but it's official now. And there's a lot of outrage. A lot of people think it's outrageous, and they bring up, well, Calvin Ridley got
to doing it.
Well, Calvin Ridley got suspended for a year, and so like now there's all this public momentum pressuring the league to make it tougher, so they can be the good guys here. Be like, okay, great. I mean, the people tell us this isn't good enough. That's an independent judge decision. We agree with the prevailing sentiment among the country that this was not enough, and we're going to step in, and we handled this well, and Roger Goodell's the hero. I mean, they could set that up right now. Because if they had come down with 17 games right off the bat, then you could have people being outraged the other way. He wasn't charged with the crime. How can the NFL do this? So now I'm just saying, all of a sudden, everyone's saying, we want more, not enough. Roger Goodell could say, we got you. So maybe that's what the Niners are banking on.
I just think the issue is how long is that itself going to take? Because this whole independent thing took about like a month or so, or however how long, maybe even longer. I honestly kind of tuned down Deshaun Watson ever since like July. Once it's like I had pretty much already assumed he was going to suspend it for a year. Then all of a sudden you start seeing like reports like, don't be surprised. I'm like, wait, what? So yeah. I mean, not I don't know anything about it, but I just know about he pretty much damaged the reputation of the Shield. He didn't represent the NFL in the right way, but just being in that situation, or even being attached to it, guilty or not. But I think ultimately that's going to take another minute for them to figure out how much of an appeal process. Does Deshaun then go against them and say, hell no, it's not going to be a season. I'm going to battle against that. Cause I think I did hear, he said if he gets suspended for a year, he's going to sue the league.
And the NFLPA is going to back him. So how long does that go? And how long do the Niners wait to like, I don't know. I guess
the Niners could wait. They're like, all right, we'll still keep him here.
It sounds like it's going to go on for another month, which is great because I keep releasing these videos reminding people that he's on the team. And
it's going to be etched in YouTube lore forever for that.
Beck says, what does our cap situation look like after Deebo? Well, according to Spot Track, the Niners have
released it.
Yeah, the Niners have like 1.5. Hold on. Cap space. I don't know. They have like they have 1.5 million in cap space. Reading is super hard. It's extremely hard. 1.5 million. So like nothing. They might have to do something like cut Jimmy Garoppolo. Santiago says, Grant, been a huge fan ever since I heard you and your dad commenting on that Bengals game in 2019 on Hot Mic. Thank you for watching. Wow. Thanks for watching. Crazy how much you've grown. Yeah, that feels like a long time ago, huh? I remember that game. Thank you. Was that the first one? Might have been the first one. All right. Deebo Samuel, first day back. You were there. What did you see from him? What was your impression? Does he look like he's in the same shape he was last year when he was an MVP candidate?
Yeah, he looks fine to me out there. I don't think I had any complaints. I mean, I did see him when they were having their own wide receiver drills. That's probably like the most active he got. Where they pretty much, just doing kind of like some light route trees and stuff like that, running along the sideline and receiving it almost like to replicate that if you're going on a crosser or somewhat. He looked fine to me. He looked moving great. Didn't look chunky, which I remember that was a thing 2 years ago. People were talking about how he looked chunky, but it's like he came off a broken foot. What else is he supposed to do? But he looked totally fine to me. I think Niner fans should be excited for him. I think he's going to be great. He didn't get much run, like you said, we saw in scrimmage, but that's pretty much what was expected. You know, it was the first day actually doing a full practice with the team. He'll probably get some run, like more run on like a Wednesday or something like that. But I think I'm really curious to see how he's going to look on those real, like move the ball situations, red zone situations with the real starters, and see how much of the real impact he makes for Trey Lance. And does that actually make that much of a difference when the offensive line just keeps whiffing their blocks? Because I don't think it's going to do too much difference, maybe like 10, 20%, which is still nice. But I mean, how much are you really going to do and take? And then another thing is, are we going to see handoffs to Deebo during camp? I don't think we will, but that would be no, exactly right. I don't think we will at all. I don't think they even need to practice that.
Well, remember, they have 17 days between the end of the preseason and the regular season where they can have closed practices, no one around. So that's when they're going to install all the stuff that they're going to do this year. This is just basic stuff. Deebo, you mentioned he didn't get a lot of run. He mostly played with the second team. And I'm looking here. He caught 2 passes today in practice, both from Nate Sudfeld. I have a theory. I mean, they're clearly trying to work him back slowly. They don't want him to, God forbid, pull muscle, which he's done before. He's very competitive. He's very competitive. He's probably not quite in football shape yet. And this Niners defense is kicking ass right now. And it's going to bring out the best in him. Him going against Travarius Ward, Emmanuel Mosley. If he probably needs to build up to that. He's probably not quite ready. I mean, he's ready, but he's probably not. He could get hurt. Some serious competition right now. So maybe they didn't want that to happen. So
yeah, you're not going to just throw a guy who's like fresh and cold and against a team that's like hot and on a different level, or a side that's not hot and on a different level. That wouldn't be fair to him, even though he is like that much of a beast of a player.
He also didn't do one-on-ones today. He also didn't do one-on-ones today. And I want to point out one-on-ones are in the red zone, but he was not a part of that.
Nope, he was not.
No, he was not. But he looks good. They got to be careful with him. Do not get him hurt in the offseason. So far, no one's gotten hurt yet. Aziz went down for a minute, but Eric Armstead. But no one's like gotten carted off. Nothing like season ending, except for Maurice Hurst. Sorry, Maurice. Okay. I keep calling him Maurice. It's Maurice. All right, moving on.
Junior.
We need to talk about Danny Gray. Now, you just saw him today. He didn't have any catches. But it's been 5 days, and he has 2 catches. And, you saw him. You saw him in the one-on-ones. You saw him in 11-on-11s. He struggled. What did you see?
I saw a guy who's strictly just a speed guy. Literally just a speed guy. What I mean by that is every time I hear, hey, this guy, his greatest strength is speed. He's a speedy wide receiver. Most of the time, that means that all the guy knows how to do is just run straight, run deep, take the top off a defense, because they can't do anything else. They cannot. And that's kind of what I expected at first to be from him. And I thought it was okay drafting in the 3rd round, because you need someone who can actually use the arm of Trey Lance. And if he just makes a couple of catches, boom, that's going to do enough to add that element. But man, it's going to suck if he cannot get off the line of scrimmage, because he can't do that. First of all, he's going on against Jimmy Ward. It's kind of unfair. One of the best defenders in the league, in my opinion. He just got mauled. He got destroyed. He got pretty much, it looked like a lion against a little puppy or something like that. And Danny Gray was the puppy. And I felt disrespected watching that.
Let's stay there. It was the first rep of one-on-ones. He tried to run a slant. Jimmy Ward got his hands on him and never let go. I mean, it was bad. So he couldn't beat the press. He never actually ran a route on that rep. The second time, he went up against Diamador Lenore and lost. So he only had 2 reps in one-on-ones, but he lost both of them. That makes me look closer, because wide receivers should win this drill. And he went up against Diamador and a safety. So it was Jimmy Ward, but still. So I don't know, man. He was like the 17th wide receiver taken, so I don't know what you're really expecting when you dig that deep. You know what I'm saying? They went high.
And it makes sense, again, because he's just the guy who's built his strength through being a vertical threat. Again, I can't ever stress it. It's all the time. It's like, this guy knows how to do is run. He can't run great. Maybe he can't catch. He can't play anything else. And if you get your hands on him, then that's fine. Because a lot of times vertical receivers are just probably like soft. You get thought of the idea of like, oh, he's fast, so he can blow by the press. But it's like, yeah, but if you know what you're doing to press, the guy's not going to be able to really shake you off. And
It's
that's
true.
exactly what I saw right there. Because what's Danny Gray, like 160? Something like that,
It
170?
looks like it.
But yeah, he's just gonna get mauled there by defenders. Especially when now your top end speed in college, especially in the college he played for, is not going to translate as well as in the NFL. He'll
I don't
probably
see it.
look good, but in moments, but it's not
He's
going to
not just
translate
like
well.
outrunning these Niners corners, is he? I don't see it.
No.
No, and he doesn't have a lot of finesse to his route running.
Mm-mm.
He doesn't have like great hand-eye coordination where he's snagging balls outside his frame. I mean, I'm a little underwhelmed. It's early. The other guy that they brought in at that position is Ray McLeod. I liked him in OTAs. I think he's hurt right now. I don't know, but I feel like I saw him
Kept grabbing his leg
go
or something.
down 2 days ago and like power through the practice. Today he had a big wrap on one of his ankles, and I saw him limping. It's like, dude, sit down. I don't understand why he has to play through this, but he looks hurt to me.
I think once you said that, I was like, yeah, he is grimacing. He did it like he did it 2 or 3 times after that, following a play, and some of the plays didn't even go his way. And one play I remember where Lance had a play action rollout to his right, where I think it was meant for McLeod deep. McLeod wasn't even open at all. And then once that play was over, you just see him just like, half not even jogging it, half jogging it. And it's like, geez, man, is this guy making this? Is he trying to like tough it out? Is he afraid his job? He's not going to be secured because they paid him money. He's got a locked in job as the number 4 receiver. I feel like he's just trying to prove himself, which, there's an integration process, but like, hey, dude, there's still some time. Take some practices off. I don't know. Maybe it's his call. Maybe he's afraid to something. He's trying to tough it out because the way it's going with Danny Gray, he has no one to fear because Danny Gray might not even suit up some games if he keeps going at this rate.
Yeah, it's probably because, they just need guys out there. Deebo's not out there. Trey is having a tough time against a very good defense. It's like, dude, if it ain't you, it's going to be freaking Danny Gray out here. Like, I don't know. Maybe he feels it won't get worse. It's just a pain thing, but it looks like he's having a tough time playing at his best. Like, he looks like he's like pulling up lane mid-route. That's just what I see. I think it's messed up that he's having to go through this. I heard that Deebo's incentives are rushing yards and rushing TDs. Oh, we should have talked about that. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yes,
So there was speculation that Deebo wasn't going to play running back anymore, and it might be in the contract. Well, quite the opposite. There is no clause in the contract that says he won't be playing running back. Actually, quite the opposite. He's incentivized. He's incentivized to play running back. He gets extra money for yards and touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, which is good because he gets a lot more rushing touchdowns than receiving touchdowns. So that's a good sign for the Niners because they win. I think they're 13-2 or something when he has 2 or more carries. I could be wrong about that, but it's something like that. So yeah, you should probably keep doing that.
Yeah, he gets for the life of a contract, so over the next 3 years, he gets an additional $1.9 million. That's not included on the original contract. So I mean, it's essentially add $2 more million on it, which he's gonna get because it's not per season. It's just over. This is per season. No, Deebo Samuel will receive $650,000 per year for each year he has 380 or more rushing yards. That shouldn't be too hard because he can pretty much just rip off 4 runs that pretty much get half of that. He also will earn $150,000 if he scores 3 rushing touchdowns in any 1 year. Easy money. He maxes out at $650,000 per year and $1.95 million over the life of his new contract. So ultimately, I think he's gonna get them all easily.
Yeah, I think so too if he stays healthy. But again, the good news here is that it's the opposite of what people were expecting. Niner fans were like, "Hey, Deebo's back, but he probably won't be playing running back anymore." But that's okay. That's okay.
That was all the noise from like Rap Sheet and Schefter and all of them were pushing that. And it was like, I thought about it. I was like, okay, that makes sense because the guy was doing freaking everything for the whole season. Even though they were 3-5, he still was doing a lot for that offense as a wide receiver. And now you ask him to switch over. That probably was like, hell, he probably was gassed. He was like, hell no, I don't want him to keep doing that. Like, what do I look like? I know how running backs shelf life is. You guys are going to kill me. And the fact that he took that 3-year extension kind of acknowledged that a little bit, where he wants to cash in again. But if he keeps even coming just close, because the standard he set last year, I don't think he's going to meet it again. But if just close for the next few years, he's going to freaking cash the hell out. They're going to have to give him the Brinks truck.
Frankly, though, like the reporting on this was really bad all offseason.
Yeah.
I mean, he requested a trade, and no one really explained it. No one ever explained why. There was speculation. It's about usage. Well, I guess not. Well, it's about living in Santa Clara. I guess not. I mean, they never explained why he. Maybe we can ask him tomorrow, and he'll tell us. But it seems like he's gonna keep doing exactly what he did, and just make more money. He's gonna get paid with the market. I don't understand what the whole offseason was about. It was a lot of drama. And what sucks about it is like you could say it's how you do business in 2022, but I feel like there's a lot of hurt feelings on both sides now. Like a lot of fans kind of have their feelings damaged about Deebo, and a lot of Deebo probably feels negatively about a lot of fans.
Yeah, he got death threats.
Yeah. So I just feel like the whole thing was unnecessary and detrimental.
It's very exaggerated.
Yeah, anyway, bring back Jalen Hurd and let the guy redeem himself. I don't think he wants to play football anymore, Davario. But I know it's a joke. But I don't think he wants to play football anymore. I mean, he didn't exactly fight.
Can he even play football anymore with his body?
AM says if Watson sues the league and it's not immediately dismissed, his suspension is likely delayed till next season. Whatever the number is.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. I was like, I wanted to say it, but I was like, what? Does that make sense? Yes, but that does make sense. Cool. At least I'm not the only one that thinks that. Where if that's fighting in court, they could just be like, all right, you can't suspend him now because this is ongoing, and then maybe they put off his suspension next year or whatever. I don't know, but that's an excellent point right there, and that's where I think Jimmy Garoppolo is just a dead topic. It's dead man walking, bro. Just cut him.
Daniel says apology needed from Deebo, disrespect, removing Niners from social media, denying staying publicly in the club video, etc. Same money as other wide receivers, embarrassing. See, this is what I'm saying. Like, this was so unnecessary. There's a certain percentage of fans who feel this way, and I'm not going to be the guy to tell them that they're wrong. Like, football is an emotional thing. This is the kind of sport where people buy jerseys and like fight other fans on like, oh, my favorite player is better than your favorite. Like, that's just how football is. And like, he upset those guys. He didn't need to. They were in his corner. The whole thing seems so unnecessary. And like, I wonder if Deebo thought about that. Like, why alienate any Niner fans?
Well,
they love you.
I'd say two things. One, on the running back usage, I think that was definitely some part of an issue. Maybe not as bad because you wouldn't put that incentive if that wasn't a thing. He's probably like, if you guys can keep using me, I want extra money for that. So Fair. Probably a little bit. Maybe not exaggerated as was, clearly, because we're arguing over $2 million. Come on.
Yeah.
But so at least that was probably a talking point. The second thing is you look at the way all three receivers toward
it's not like this isn't going to be complimentary anymore. You got to pay me.
Go ahead. Pay me a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey man, you got to cash in on what your best traits is by any means, even if it's just a little bit. But anyways, you look at the other receivers who are also holding out. AJ Brown, head in the shadows, and said, "I want a deal." Got what he wanted. New contract, just got traded. DK Metcalf, they knew what he wanted. He held in, didn't say anything else, just held in. Got what he wanted. Deebo Samuel, trade request. That looked like the most true thing of the whole report. Trade request, usage, toss up, just cut it down a little bit on what it was. Relationship damaging. I don't even know about that. Scrubbing your IG, all this stuff. I mean, he took the most like outrageous ways. Not outrageous. He took the most like publicly integrated ways through social media, through like the talking to who was it? Jeff Darlington did that report, right? Through all these little smoke screens, rather than just like the way Kyle Shanahan said, like, hey, I already know what I heard. I don't know what you guys heard. It's like, no, what we heard is because he told Darlington, Deebo himself did that. So that's where it's like, that's why you're right about that fan about being angry for that sense.
I just want to give John Lynch credit because during the offseason, I was being like, dude, what are you doing here? Like, this all worked out. He didn't give in. He didn't trade him. He didn't sell low. He got him, exactly where the market dictated. He didn't have to overpay for Deebo.
That was a great contract.
He got the same contract that DK Metcalf got, except probably a little bit less. He held his ground. He didn't, flinch at any of that, drama. And it all worked out. As opposed to, the one team that really came away looking stupid in this wide receiver market, Tennessee. You had a problem paying AJ Brown. That's what it costs to have a great wide receiver. Do you not want to have a great wide receiver? Apparently you don't, because you just traded him to Philly. Now they have a great wide receiver. What were you doing? They talked themselves out of AJ Brown. They're stupid. John Lynch didn't do that. So I'll give him credit for that.
Heard in that playoff window too. And AJ Brown said he was going to take less than the contract he got from the Eagles, but Tennessee was just like, nah.
Tennessee messed up. The Niners did a good job on this Deebo Samuel thing. Let's talk about the newest 49er. Akeem Spence. It's 30-year-old nose tackle, D tackle. They signed him today. They gave him a one-year deal. I mean, obviously the league isn't competing for him. He's probably right at the end of his career. But the Niners have a big need at defensive tackle. Maurice Hurst out for the year. Eric Armstead out for a month. Son Ridgeway out for now.
One more person.
Who?
Javon Kinlaw was out today. He was looking on the sideline, which was shocking because I thought the point was to play him Saturday, then rest them the same way with McGlinchey. That's exactly what Shanahan said. Kinlaw and McGlinchey will integrate them a little bit on Saturday, and they did that perfectly. Sunday, that way, because you get that rest day Sunday, so that way they're good to get that pad day today. And McGlinchey was out there for a lot. He looks. I mean, early on, he looks great. I feel more confident in him going into the season.
Oh, McGlinchey the whole practice. He did warm-ups. He was in pads. He didn't take every rep in 11, but he was out there. He worked his ass off today. Not that.
Yeah.
I mean, he worked very hard. Yeah. He looks healthy.
And the thing is, especially for when you're not injury prone, especially when you're a player coming off a severe injury, you need all these reps now to get in the most shape and the most like battle hardened, because once that grind comes, it's only going to get worse and just being at that straight bottom level of pain you're going to feel. Where Kinlaw, it's like, dude, you keep going off and on, which I read that I saw on a tweet. I think Wagner confirmed on that it's another rest day, an additional rest day that they just gave him. Which I wonder, is that,
see, that's why I didn't put in my practice report, because I don't want to speculate. And unfortunately, they're not doing coaches after practice. Kyle's talks before, so we'll have to wait until tomorrow and be like,
"Yep,
what was that?" And if they say we wanted to have 2 days off, okay, good to know. So anyway, either he had a setback or the plan was to give him 2 days off. Either way, they need more bodies. The starting defensive tackles today were Kevin Givens and Alex Barrett.
Alex Barrett. Though.
Alex Barrett. How big is Alex Barrett? Hold on. 49ers. He's 6'2", 250, dude. He's a 250-pound defensive tackle starting for the Niners right now.
What is he, like 6'2"?
Yeah. Yes.
He's stocky.
He looks like D'Amico Ryans.
Yeah.
I mean, he's about that size. Playing D tackle.
Looks like a big ass bowling ball to me. But I mean, shoot. I mean, hey, we're giving these guys hate. I mean, not hate, but a little criticism on the interior. But even then, both starting and backup offensive linemen still couldn't handle it. They still couldn't handle these guys.
Yeah. So
do they actually have an issue there, or maybe they do have an issue, and this is really just the offensive line that's just looking so bad? That's where I'm trying to figure out. It's like that would be a counterpoint of like, okay, we're saying Lance is doing good by playing high elite defense. But what about the offensive line? How come we're not giving them a pass? Well, they're without Eric Armstead. Nick Bosa's not playing every down. No Kinlaw, and they're playing with these guys, and they're still looking bad. So you got a guy like Akeem Spence. If he's out there and actually plays and he's still dominating, do we not have a problem on our hands here?
What's interesting to me is this is a very talented team with, like, top picks, Pro Bowlers all over. But the biggest weakness on both offense and defense is the interior of the line. The defensive tackles, the guards in the center, and that's a really interesting place to be weak, because if you're too weak and too thin there, it almost doesn't matter how good you are anywhere else. If you gave up instant pressure on offense, you can't do anything. If you can't stop the run between the tackles, you don't get a chance to rush the quarterback or cover. Like, you're just getting gouged. So I'm not saying the Niners are at that spot, but they have to make sure that these weaknesses aren't flat out liabilities. And so that's why they're signing people like Akeem Spence.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that now that Kinlaw, which you thought he was going to come back, sitting on the sideline, Armstead pretty much going to be gone for most of training camp, if not all. And you're going to have to somehow have both of these guys coming back, not in the best tip-top shape, because there's still going to be an integration process for them as well. It's kind of looking a little flimsy in that interior at the least. I have more hope for at least the interior defensive line than I do for the offensive interior line. If that's one way I'm going to lean, easily by far.
People are saying it's been reported it was a scheduled day off for Kinlaw. Good. So
yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I said. Like, this scheduled day off. That's what they're saying. That's what I saw Wagner say. Scheduled day off.
If he's we don't know when his next scheduled day on is. So if he's at the day on, day off rhythm, then, I mean, when is he going to play every day? Like, how far away is he? It seems to me like McGlinchey's closer to being 100% than Kinlaw is right now.
Oh, hell yeah. He looked great.
Right. So that's why they're signing defensive tackles. We're learning a lot. We don't know much. Probably the Niners don't know much about the state of their defensive tackles. Armstead should be back by week 1. Should be. So,
I mean,
they need some backup plans. Otherwise, they just, like it says, Robert Kimdiche.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder how much work they're even going to try to, they even care to give Kinlaw like that, because they might be scarred of like, God, I want to give him too much run, because what if, for God's sakes, it's like, great, we wanted to give him a chance in the game, but we put him out there for too long and he got hurt for whatever reason. So, I mean, I guess they're trying to be extra careful, which I don't blame them, because it's like,
No, you got to be. You got to be. Yeah.
I don't blame them at all. It's like, hey, I popped my tires multiple times driving this street. Let me drive slower next time, or just take a longer route and just be more careful. Be more careful, even if you
get him to the regular season, for sure.
Yeah, this is just like when we saw Trent Williams. Look, Trent Williams on the side. And look, it's apples and oranges compared to Trent Williams and Javon Kinlaw, because one's a freaking all-pro, best tackle in the league. The other guy still needs to prove himself. But so the point is, like, you're much more valuable on game day than you are to practice. And for God's sake, we don't want to have to like kick ourselves in the chin, kick ourselves in the knee, bash our heads in because we decided, hey, let's just get him some practice reps, and boom, he got hurt. And now he's out for some games.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting to see if Kinlaw ever gets to the point in this training camp where he's playing every day, or if that's just not the plan for him. And he could, but they're choosing not to. Either way, they're probably going to need bodies. I don't know how much longer they can get by with a 250-pound defensive tackle in practice. Although without tackling, I guess you can sort of do stuff like that. You could put.
I don't know how they're going to get by without a Terry offensive line. That, to me, I mean, Kinlaw not being their story in the. I know I'm harping on it, but like, God, like,
What an indictment of the offensive line that Alex. What an indictment of the offensive line that Alex Barrett can start at defensive tackle and they can't do anything about it.
Yeah, they're doing good with Alex Barrett of all people, and the offensive line is not holding its own. It's not doing. I mean, first they have pads again. I get it. It's early on. Great defense, but aren't these the players you're supposed to be better against? I thought Eric Banks was going to look better in the left guard. He kind of was like up and down the whole time. Spencer Verford looks okay for a rookie, but he's gonna have that. He's gonna have that, that tuck and pull of being the same thing as a rookie. And then Brunsk, I was just like flabbergasted at seeing what the hell was going on there. And I don't think there's an answer that's gonna get resolved there. You're probably gonna have to do your 2019 offense where you get Lance rolling out like crazy.
I'm just used to teams bringing in young quarterbacks, and the first thing they do is address the offensive line. Because it's like, it's hard enough to read coverage and play and like make the transition, but doing it under pressure, usually what we want to do is keep you upright and not get you hurt. But the Niners are like, nah, we're just going to get another good defensive end. Like, yeah, that's a great position too. That's a really important position. He's a really great player, but like, what about your quarterback? What about your quarterback? He's important, right? I mean, he's 3 first-round picks, not just one. Trevor Lawrence, 1 first-round pick. Trey Lance, 3. And you're like, he'll protect himself. He's good. He's that good. No, Jake Brendel is that good.
And you know what? I think trading the draft wasn't even an option for the 49ers, because Cam Jurgens, did he go to the Patriots, or one of the other guys did? The
other dude went to the Patriots.
He was the last one, wasn't he? Or he was on the first one?
Yeah, what's his face?
Whatever. The point is, he was the top prospect center. The Patriots took him. Yeah. And Sean McVay live literally just laughed like, "Oh, I thought he was gonna fall 3 rounds later." Who is McVay? Who is McVay most similar to? Kyle Shanahan. Sure. So maybe they both viewed it the same. They just didn't like those centers that high.
Yeah. Cole Strange. Anyway, I'm tired. It was a long day. Training camp chugs along. I was really happy that Jose could be there today. He had great eyes on the field, and he'll be there again on Wednesday. So watch out for Jose's reports, because he's got boots on the ground.
Wednesday.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'm going to go have a glass of water, rest my voice. See you tomorrow. Yeah, that's it.